I think Nama Blander really elevated a couple of issues for us that we need to give some thought to. And I'm hoping that, one of the things that we talk about over the course of the next couple of days as we're at dinners with family and friends, and we talk politics and we talk life and we talk big issues for Toronto. I think these are some of the big issues that Toronto is facing. This Bill 23 and what the provincial government is trying to do in regards to more affordability really is an issue. And I think there's a lot of opposition building against it. And I'm wondering why. And I think that it's something that needs to be addressed. There was a very interesting editorial column in the National Post today where some people were criticizing fairly dramatically some of the opposition. And I really think it is established people that are worried about their own situation versus thinking about what's right and where we need to go as a community. And let me elaborate on that if I could a little bit. So some of the politicians around Toronto have been saying that by reducing development fees, developers are going to make a huge amount of profit, extra windfall profit. I think basic economics says that's not going to happen. As costs go down, developers will make a certain amount of profit and have always made a certain amount of profit, won't actually go ahead with projects unless they can make a certain amount of profit. Number one, because that's what their equity investors demand. And number two, because that's what the banks demand. Banks will actually take a look at developers' pro formas, their projections of what they're going to make, and ensure that they make a certain amount of profit that is sort of regular industry standard profit. Otherwise, they won't lend them the money because they don't want to take over the project. They want to make sure that the developer is going to be profitable, not going to go bankrupt halfway through the process, and they end up the proud owner of the property. So basic economics 101 that I think a lot of these politicians probably have taken. They may be lying to us. Sorry, that's a wrong word. Maybe forgetting that they actually took some of those courses and are suggesting that the developers will make windfall profit. More than likely, what's going to happen is that they'll actually build more buildings or they'll reduce their prices. Because basic economics says that if the taxation through development fees goes down, they're either going to reduce their prices or they're going to build more buildings. And they're going to be forced to, not because they just want to out of the generosity of their heart. They're going to do it because their competitor next door started to do it. And if they want to sell their buildings, they're going to have to do it. And that's just the way the world works. And it works in almost everything. As inflation goes up, everyone increases their prices. As deflation happens or as taxation goes down or up, people adjust their prices. It's basic economics. So I think that politicians that are suggesting and blaming developers on this are misguided, and either fooling us or fooling themselves or trying to do both. The second issue is that they're saying development fees pay for development and growth pays for growth. I think this is wrong. And the fact that you've got development fees in Burlington versus Mississauga versus Toronto that are so dramatically different, I think proves that point. If it paid for growth, if it paid for the infrastructure, they would be approximately the same rather than something that the different councils just get to choose. And so I think what it is it's a tax, and it's a tax on people that aren't in the communities yet, and so therefore can't complain because it's a tax on new home builders, the people that have yet to move into the city. And the people that are benefiting from this are the current property owners that are voting for them. And we know turnout is low. So it's 15 to 20 to maybe 28% of the population that vote in municipal elections. And it's typically the older people that have got more established in the community and own their homes and have built up a net worth. And that's who these politicians are catering to. But those are the people that can most afford the extra tax and can and yet they seem to have an outside influence. And Nama talked about it well. She said that it's actually not democracy because it's minority rules. We're listening to this minority that end up having way too much power. But almost more importantly than all this, it actually isn't right. I really think it's ethically wrong. That what you've got is the situation that the people that are the most vulnerable, newcomers to our community, young people that are trying to buy their first home, immigrants to our country, renters that are trying to go from a rental to an owner. Those are the people that our politicians are putting the biggest taxes on and making it unaffordable. And we know it's unaffordable. It's incredibly unaffordable. These development charges are wrong. And then you hear the lines about, how the NIMBYism and or the councillors that have too much power or, other issues, such that it takes forever to get projects approved. And the influence that the politicians and the planning departments have on parking ratios and everything else is more than you'd have in almost any other segment of our industrial society. Why? Has that really benefited us? I'm not sure. But what it has done is it has created a situation where the Greater Toronto Area is longer to get approvals than almost anywhere else in North America. And it takes longer to get approval to build a building than it does to build a building. And what it has achieved. Has it achieved a better city? I'm not sure. It has brought down height. And Nama talked about whether height is actually an issue or not. And so I think that we've over-focused on one issue, height, when in fact we should be more focusing on, the ground floor plan that she was talking about and other things. What it has done is it made our housing unaffordable, such that my kids can't afford, your kids can't afford to buy a house, to buy a condo in the Greater Toronto Area. They've got to move far afield or they've got to rent for the rest of their lives. I think we have made the Canadian dream uneconomic, and the fault is our local politicians. And we've got to make changes. And I think that Bill 23 and some of the things that the provincial government are doing are a big step forward. And I think that some of the opposition from the local politicians is misguided. And it's going to hurt me because I'm probably going to pay more property tax. And so therefore, a lot of people are going to be complaining. But you know what? It's not right. I shouldn't have lower property tax and my kids effectively paying that taxation in higher development fees. I don't think it's right. And we've got to step back as a society and start thinking a little bit more about what's right rather than what's convenient. And I think that's what too many politicians in municipalities around Toronto are doing today. They're thinking about what's convenient, gets them votes, rather than making the hard decisions about what actually gets housing more affordable and what's ethically right. You shouldn't put this huge taxation on newcomers just because they don't vote yet. Anyway, a couple of thoughts to make dinner table conversations more stimulating. Thanks. Good night, everybody.